When Pilates clients want to work on their posture, a concept I'll introduce early on is called masses and spaces, because it's a really easy way to think about organizing your own posture. So let me introduce you to it. In our body, we have these large bony landmarks. So let's say your head, your rib cage, and your pelvis are 3 examples. And these represent the masses. In between those large bones, there are regions or spaces that are more muscular and permit more movement than the mass areas. So we use the spaces and masses together. And the spaces permit movement to either align or change the relationship of all the masses in relation to each other. So when we're thinking about your static posture, you can almost imagine this like this string of pearls where the actual beads are representing the masses and the chain links in between them are representing the spaces, because those would be like joints that could move. And when I'm standing, I would want all these masses to line up. It's cracking me up that this won't stay still, but you got my point. It's kind of like a little plumb line. So as a visual, this masses and spaces idea is great, because if you're looking in the mirror, you can assess, are all those bony landmarks lined up in relation to each other. But I want you to develop more of an internal sense and awareness of your posture, because most of the time when we're doing like our regular functional movements, there isn't a mirror nearby. So we're going to use your imagination to try to get you more into your body and sense what your optimal posture would feel like. So I want you to set your feet how you would when you're standing normally and just kind of relax a little bit. Okay. Now, normally I want to give you a baseline of your normal posture, but we're not going to worry about that today. Instead, I want to paint a couple pictures and let your body kind of play along with this. So first, we're going to make a bad day posture. I don't want to give you specific examples because I know that can be triggering sometimes, but just imagine the end of that really bad day, and can you show me through your physical expression what you feel like you look like as you were, heading home, ready to go to bed. And you're feeling the weight of that bad day on you, and then all of a sudden it just starts raining, cold, heavy rain. And just kind of feel what that posture and that expression is like in your body. Where do you feel the weight of your body over your feet? Where do you feel tense? Or where do you feel like points of weakness or collapse? And then I want you to imagine if all of those sensations were there all the time. Like if this was your regular way of moving through the world. So if you do often feel hopeless or heavy or stressed out, and that is our normal carrying posture, those signals that you were just observing might actually become your points of chronic pain. Areas where your body feels extra tension as if it's losing the fight against gravity to hold you up straight. So that's like one extreme of bad posture. Now let's do another image. I want you to pretend you're really, really mad right now. And you're about to have a fight, not a fist up moment, but where you want to show your opponent just how big, bad, and tough you are. All right, and give me some clenched fists with this though. So stick it out, get it attention, make yourself as big and as threatening as possible, and give me a facial expression to match it also. And as you're still holding it, I want you to do that same body scan. Sense where your weight is over your feet, sense how you're relating to the floor, and how tension feels through your body. Is it everywhere? Does it sit in just like 1 or 2 really tight spots? How does your face feel? How do your fists feel? Just scan everything and get a baseline. All right, then shake that out a little bit. Now imagine that too. What if you were always on guard and that became your normal holding posture of the holding of your posture? That much tension all the time would also shift from being feedback to tell you how you're holding yourself and eventually become the actual chronic pain you were fighting. So we want to bring awareness into these tension patterns, and it's important we play this little game with it, because when you're really feeling those emotions, you are going to express what you just practiced, but you're less likely to be able to be mindful and stay within your body because your emotions have kind of carried you away. So if we practice it like actors when it's not really going on, we can start to develop more communication back and forth between our bodies. So hopefully we're picking up on those signals when we are in real life and distracted. So now let's create your optimal posture. Now you've got this big picture vision of the masses and spaces, but we're all going to look a little different Because you have your own posture, your injuries, your restrictions. So let's just sense what feels good. I want you to begin at your feet and set your feet the width apart that feels comfortable. But now we're just gonna relate to your feet a little bit. So again, just shake yourself out so you're not extra tense before we start. And just a little bit, rock your body back and forth, just a tiny bit, like you're putting a little more weight towards your toes and then back towards your heels. And your whole body should have a reaction to that, like almost like elastic, like you just get tight and that pushes you back, you get tight in the back, it pushes you forward. And make that smaller and smaller. But imagine that front back tension. We're trying to even it out where they're both holding you equally from the front and back in a supportive way. So I'm gonna bring my weight back over my heels. And now I'm just gonna relate the pressure of my weight down through my heels to the ground. So I want you to feel the center of both heels, push them down into the floor a little harder like you were rooting into the ground. And notice how right away the rest of your body has a reflex to go the opposite way. And the crown of your head grows towards the ceiling in relationship to how much you're pushing your feet into the floor. And we are stimulating a complete anti-gravity response that's engaging collectively all of the soft tissue in my body to help lift me up and support me so I can diffuse or spread out that connection of my body to the ground. So this is like, you can imagine your skeleton is just floating in all of your soft tissue as it's holding you. When I come into my best posture that way, there's a feeling as I'm drawing up and down at the same time, there's a feeling of an openingness or buoyancy that wasn't there when I was in my tense, tall posture. There, I was using muscular gripping to hold myself up. And this, it's no more muscular force than I need because more muscles from the deepest, smallest ones up to the biggest ones are relating to each other and working collectively to hold me up. So now, back to the relationship, just to put you through a couple very simple movements. So I want you to see me from the side. So I've set that initial posture of pushing down into my feet, allowing my head to grow up, so I'm in my best version of those masses being in line. Now, if I wanted to do a squat, my back should stay straight, but I should flex at my hips, so it'll be an effect of hinging forward. And I'm gonna use cues. This is what it looks like. Okay, so if you're just observing my skeleton, you're seeing that my hips, my ribs, and my head stay in a relationship to each other. That gives the effect of, if you kind of look at it from my arm, my whole torso is tipping forward and coming up. So that's what it looks like from the bones, but the feedback you're gonna create in your own body is in that space region. We want a way to sense what's going on with your neck and low back, because they're responsible for keeping this organization. So try exhaling as you go down, and when you exhale, your abdominal muscles are gonna feel like a full compression in the front, and as you tip forward, it's almost like you have a sling underneath you. And that compression is a great way for you to feel a relationship between your ribs and hips. So a few of the deeper layers of your abdominals are compressing there to help you feel that connection. If you'd like to sense your neck to align your head and your neck, I would prefer you use your gaze as your feedback, just so a different type of sensation. When I'm looking forward, my arm's reflecting where I'm looking, so I'm looking forward at the wall. And then when I tip forward, my gaze is gonna change, traveling down the wall, and now it's looking like at the base of the wall, and then back up to the wall. Okay, so you can see how my arm's kind of doing that eye line, and then back up. Okay, so in that sense, you found your posture and you stabilized it while it moved through space, okay? So you had that cue of the visual alignment and then the feedback. How about if we wanted to flex your spine? So here, if I said round forward and try to touch your toes, round forward, going down like this wouldn't actually be the look we were going for in terms of the alignment of all the segments. In round forward, it would be like I now bent that string of pearls, remember I showed you, but there'd still be a relationship. I'm not bending it so far that my string breaks. So here, the angle of my head changes as my neck space flexes, right? My ribs start to get pulled along as I go further forward, and then my low back is gonna flex to increase the flexion. Okay, now my spine is fully flexed, and then come on back up. So if you wanna try that with me, I didn't state this, but I put a tiny bend in my knees just to bring my center of gravity a touch lower, and then I started that motion. So my pelvis isn't moving, I'm just going from the top, and the movement of my head and that change of my neck affects the next mass, right? It starts to move and curl forward to follow it. And then the next space has to round. And if I wanted to keep going now, then my pelvis would tilt. But they all still maintain a relationship to each other. And when I come back out of it, tail to head, I can come back into that straight relationship. So you could try that a couple times in your own body, just feeling that curl forward and then the stacking back up. Okay, so as you go throughout your day, I want you to find moments to be mindful of this. Just sense how your body parts relate to each other, and are they in their best optimal relationship? Do you feel able to react and move and switch directions? Like if somebody tripped, would you be able to lean forward and catch them? Or if you tripped, would you be able to catch yourself? Being aware of your posture's potential for movement is really important to set up good starting positions when you go into your movement practice.